My name is Hazel Matthews. I'm 23 years old, and this is the story of how my graduation day turned into the most painful and powerful moment of my life. You see, just weeks ago, I graduated with honors from Stanford University with a degree in business. I should have felt proud. I should have been celebrating with the people who loved me. But instead, on what should have been the happiest day of my life, my parents betrayed me in a way I'll never forget. It all happened at my graduation party. My parents had invited family and friends, rented out a nice venue, and even ordered a cake with "Congratulations, Hazel" written across it. But behind all the decorations and forced smiles, there was a hidden agenda. Right when I was about to give a thank you speech, my father stood up and said, "Hazel, before we move on, we need to take care of some family business." I blinked, confused. "Now?" My mother nodded and pulled out a thick envelope. My father continued, "This is a document transferring your grandfather's inheritance to your sister Amber. We need you to sign it." At first, I thought it was a joke, but they were serious. I glanced at Amber, my older sister. She stood there smugly in a brand new designer dress, not even trying to hide her smirk. I looked back at my parents, stunned. Why would I sign that? "Because it's what's fair," my mom said. "Fair?" I repeated, feeling my voice shake. "Grandpa left that to me. He didn't know what he was doing," Amber cut in. "You manipulated him while he was sick." That's when my father snapped. He grabbed my diploma off the table, the one I had just received that morning, and threw it straight into the fireplace. The flames swallowed it in seconds. "You don't deserve Grandpa's money," he shouted. The room went silent. My heart was pounding, but I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just smiled. Because what they didn't know was that I was ready for this. They thought they could intimidate me, but they had no idea what was coming next. If you've ever had family betray you on your special day, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because what happened next? Let's just say they messed with the wrong girl. I didn't come from a warm, loving family. Growing up, I was always the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who followed the rules. While other kids spent weekends at the mall or hanging out with friends, I was working, studying, or helping my grandfather with his business books. Grandpa Harold was the only one who saw my worth, the only one who believed in me. Amber, on the other hand, was the golden child. She was 5 years older than me, beautiful, confident, and spoiled beyond belief. She could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. If she failed a class, they hired her private tutors. If she got into debt, they paid it off. If she crashed a car, they bought her a new one. But me? When I got straight A's, they barely noticed. When I got accepted into Stanford, they told me to take out student loans. "College isn't for everyone," my mom had said, even though I'd worked 2 jobs and kept a 3.9 GPA. They never appreciated me, never saw my potential. But Grandpa did. Grandpa Harold was different. He had built his construction business from the ground up, with nothing but grit, calloused hands, and a sharp mind. He recognized those same qualities in me. He used to say, "You understand the value of things, Hazel, not just their price." From the time I was 15, we had Sunday sessions. Every week I'd visit him. Sometimes we'd go over his investment strategies. Sometimes we'd just sit on the porch, sipping lemonade and talking about life. Those moments shaped me. My parents said he was just lonely, but I knew the truth. We were connected. He was teaching me things no one else ever would. When he got sick with Parkinson's during my sophomore year, it was hard. But I stayed by his side, and slowly he started preparing me for the future. He introduced me to his lawyer, Marcus Goldstein, and asked me to help get his estate in order. I never asked about the will, never assumed he would leave me anything. But one Sunday, he brought it up himself. "I'm leaving you the house, and most of my savings," he said, looking me straight in the eye. "You're the only one who will do something meaningful with it." I tried to say no. I didn't want to be the cause of a family war. But he shook his head. "It's my money. I know what I'm doing. Your parents never understood hard work. And Amber, she'll burn through it in a year. But you could build something amazing." When Grandpa passed away just 3 months before my graduation, it crushed me. At the funeral, I noticed how my parents and Amber kept glancing at Marcus, Grandpa's lawyer. They were already thinking about the money. I stayed quiet, because Marcus had told me something important. Grandpa wanted the will to be read after my graduation. "He wanted you to focus on school first," Marcus explained. And so I did. But in the weeks leading up to my graduation, my parents changed. Suddenly, they were calling more often. My mom invited me to lunch. My dad asked about my career plans. Amber even texted me on my birthday, for the first time in years. I played along, smiled, responded politely, because I knew what they were really after. What they didn't know was that Grandpa had warned me. "When they realize what I've done, they'll come after you. Be ready." And I was. But I never expected their betrayal to come in front of everyone I knew at my graduation party.
Still, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even flinch when my diploma turned to ashes, because the real fire was coming, and they were about to get burned. I left my own graduation party without saying a word. People stared as I walked past them. Some whispered. Others just stood there, mouths open. My parents didn't even try to stop me. They thought they'd won. But they had no idea that this was just the beginning. That same night, I called Marcus, Grandpa's lawyer. He picked up right away. They did it, I said calmly. They finally showed their true colors. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Marcus said, "Are you ready to meet tomorrow morning? We'll go over the will. It's time." The next morning, I arrived at Marcus Goldstein's office in downtown San Francisco. His firm was sleek, modern, with big glass windows, and the scent of polished wood and leather books. Marcus greeted me with a warm handshake and a kind smile. He was an older man with silver hair and wise eyes, the kind of man who spoke softly, but carried a mountain of authority. "I'm sorry you had to go through that, Hazel," he said gently. "Your grandfather knew this might happen. That's why he left everything in writing, and why he made copies, lots of them." We sat in his office, and he pulled out a thick binder labeled Harold Matthews, Last Will and Testament. As he opened it, I felt a rush of emotion. My chest tightened. My eyes stung. I missed Grandpa more than ever, but I also felt something else. Strength, clarity, power. Marcus began reading the will. "To my granddaughter, Hazel Matthews, I leave my home, all business shares, liquid savings, and remaining investments. She has earned it, not by blood, but by integrity, hard work, and loyalty." I swallowed hard. He kept reading. "To my daughter and son-in-law, I leave a small trust fund, enough to help them in retirement. And to Amber, I leave my classic car, not for its value, but as a memory of our Sunday drives." That was it. No millions for my parents. No business control for Amber. No chance to fight over anything. I sat back in the leather chair, stunned but grateful. Grandpa had protected me, even after death. Marcus looked up. "Hazel, I need you to understand something. Your grandfather knew your parents would be angry. That's why he added a no contest clause." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means if they try to challenge the will in court, they lose everything, even the small parts they were given." I nodded slowly. He really thought of everything. Marcus closed the binder and placed a smaller envelope in front of me. "What's this?" He smiled. "A letter. From him. He wrote it the week before he passed. He asked me to give it to you after the will was read." I opened it with shaky hands. It was written in Grandpa's familiar handwriting. "My dearest Hazel, I knew you'd face pain before you found peace. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from that, but I've given you the tools to build something greater than all of us. They'll be angry. Let them. You have a future ahead of you that none of them ever imagined, because they were never looking that far. Build something real. Build something strong. I'll always be proud of you. Love, Grandpa." I had to wipe my eyes before I could even finish it. This letter wasn't just a goodbye. It was a mission. The days that followed were quiet, too quiet. Then the calls started. First my mom. "Hazel, we need to talk. You've misunderstood the will. I'm sure there's a way to—" I hung up. Then Dad. "Listen, we're family. We deserve a piece of what your grandfather built. He wouldn't want you to be selfish." I didn't answer. And then Amber, her voice sharp and cold. "You think this makes you better than me? Don't forget who carried you for 9 months. I almost laughed. For once they couldn't control me, couldn't guilt me, couldn't take what wasn't theirs. I had what Grandpa wanted me to have, and I wasn't going to let anyone take it away. 3 weeks after the will was finalized, I moved into Grandpa's house. My house now. It was quiet at first, too quiet, but it didn't take long before I started to feel him there. In the smell of the books, the creak of the floorboards, the old coffee mug still on the porch swing. I spent those first few days just walking room to room, touching everything, remembering everything. It wasn't just a house, it was a legacy, and it was mine now. But I didn't move in just to live there. I moved in to do something bigger, something Grandpa would have been proud of. Moving into Grandpa's house felt like stepping into a memory. Every corner held a piece of him. His old desk with handwritten notes, the smell of cedar in the closet, his favorite chair by the fireplace. At night I'd sit on the porch swing and stare at the stars just like we used to. But I didn't have time to live in the past. Grandpa didn't leave me all this, just to be comfortable. He left it so I could build something. So I did. I started by reopening his old office. A small room at the back of the house, filled with business records, blueprints and notes from years ago. Most people would have thrown it all away. I saw gold. For weeks I read everything. I found detailed financial reports from his construction business, handwritten strategy plans, even sketches for a senior living development he had dreamed of but never finished. It was like he had left me a map, and I was going to follow it. I registered a new LLC under the name Hazel and Harold Ventures, a tribute to both of us. I used part of the inheritance to hire 2 of Grandpa's old employees, men in their 60s who had worked with him for decades. When I told them who I was and what I wanted to do, they both teared up. "Harold talked about you all the time," one of them said you were the smartest person he ever met. We got to work. I started small, affordable home renovations. then moved into buying old properties, fixing them up and flipping them. Every deal I closed, I thought of Grandpa. Every contract I signed, I imagined him saying, "That's my girl." Meanwhile, my parents were losing their minds. They started spreading lies through the family, saying I manipulated Grandpa, in his final days, that he wasn't in his right mind, that the lawyer had tricked him, but the will was airtight. Marcus had made sure of it. Even worse for them, I didn't respond at all. No angry texts, no family meetings, no emotional speeches. I let silence speak for me, and that silence drove them crazy. But Amber, she was the real problem. While my parents were stuck complaining, she was planning. I found out through a mutual friend that she was trying to start her own consulting business, using Grandpa's name. She even had the nerve to email me one day. "Since you're living in my grandfather's house and spending my inheritance, the least you could do is loan me $50,000 for my business. We're still family, Hazel. You owe me." I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the email to Marcus and asked him to document it, just in case, because I had a feeling things were about to get worse. Then came the knock at my door. It was early evening, and I had just finished a call with a supplier when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find my mother standing there. She looked tired, and for the first time in a long time, not angry, just small. "Hazel," she said softly, "can we talk?" I didn't move. "Why now?" she sighed. "Because we miss you, your father and I, and Amber's going through a hard time. We just want to make things right." I almost believed her. Almost. But then I noticed the corner of a legal folder poking out of her handbag. I raised an eyebrow. "Are you here as my mom, or with paperwork?" She looked caught. "I just think there's still a way to split things fairly." I nodded slowly. Then I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and said, "You made your choice the day you threw my diploma in a fire. You don't get to rewrite history just because the outcome wasn't what you expected." Her face fell. "I hope someday you understand," she said, turning to leave. "I already do," I replied. "That's why I'm not opening the door again."
That night, I sat alone in the office, staring at a photo of Grandpa on the wall. He had told me this would happen. "They will come after you," he had said, "not because they miss you, but because they miss what you represent, control." He was right. They didn't want me back. They wanted the money, the power, the reputation, the things they never earned. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of them anymore. The next morning, I made a decision. I was going to finish what Grandpa started, the senior living development he had dreamed of years ago. It wasn't just a business plan, it was a way to honor his memory, to turn pain into purpose. I gathered the sketches, the files, the research he had done. I reached out to architects, contractors, and investors. Most of them were surprised to hear from someone so young, but I wasn't just any young woman. I was Harold Matthews' granddaughter, and I was about to show the world exactly what that meant. 3 months. That's how long it took before my grandfather's dream started turning into reality. We had the land, we had the plans, we had the permits. I stood on the empty lot one morning, boots in the dirt, sun on my face, holding Grandpa's blueprints in my hands. A senior living community, safe, affordable, built with dignity, the kind of place he had always wished existed for people like him. Hazel and Harold Ventures was finally on the map, but success has a price, and my family was not done with me yet. The first sign was a strange email from a supplier. "We've received word from a former business partner of yours that you're not authorized to move forward with your current project. Please confirm ownership documents." At first, I thought it was a mistake. Then a second contractor pulled out. Then a bank flagged a fake credit concern under my company's name. It didn't take long to find out who was behind it. Amber. I traced it all back. Emails, calls, even false complaints filed anonymously. Except they weren't anonymous, not to me. She wanted to ruin the project before it ever began. I confronted her. I met her in a coffee shop downtown, across from the very bank that had once denied me a student loan. She showed up wearing designer sunglasses and sipping iced matcha like she didn't have a care in the world. "You've been busy," I said flatly. She smirked. "So have you. I saw your little groundbreaking ceremony online. Cute. Why are you doing this?" She leaned in. "Because you don't deserve it. You were always the quiet one, the helper, the background character. You think one old man's money makes you better than us?" I stayed calm. "You think Grandpa left me everything because of luck?" I asked. "He left it to me because he knew I would protect it, use it, build something with it." Amber laughed. "You really think people respect you? They're laughing behind your back. You're not a CEO. You're a little girl playing with a dead man's money." Her words stung, but I didn't flinch. "I'd rather be a little girl with a purpose," I said, "than a grown woman begging strangers to fund her fantasy." I stood up. "Stay out of my business, Amber. Last warning." She rolled her eyes. "Or what?" I smiled. "You'll find out." That night, I called Marcus. I told him everything: the sabotage, the fake emails, the interference. He listened, then said, "It's time we go public." "What do you mean?" "I mean, we make a statement, one that makes it clear you're not alone, and that your grandfather's wishes are protected by law." The next day, Marcus filed an official cease and desist against Amber, and a press release was issued through his firm confirming the full legality of the inheritance, the no contest clause, and the fact that Hazel and Harold Ventures had been fully verified. It was clear Amber had no power here. Still, I knew she wouldn't stop quietly. 1 week later, I received a call at 2 a.m. It was one of my workers. "There's a fire," he said breathlessly, "at the site. We think someone started it." I rushed out of bed, jumped in my car, and drove faster than I ever had before. Smoke filled the air as I arrived. Flames were rising from a corner of the site where we had stored equipment and plans. The fire department was already there, but the damage was done. Some files were gone, tools destroyed, a small part of the site scorched. It could have been worse, but it was still personal. Investigators found traces of gasoline and a lighter near the site, one that was traced back to a gas station where Amber had used her card earlier that night. She denied everything, of course. "It wasn't me," she told police. "Someone must have stolen it." But the damage was clear, and I had a choice to make. Let it shake me or rebuild stronger? I thought of Grandpa, the battles he fought, the storms he survived, the way he used to say, "When someone tries to bury you, remember you're a seed." So I went back to work. We rebuilt, stronger. We hired new security. We digitized all records. We expanded our team and restructured the timeline. Delays cost money, but I had enough to absorb it. Because Grandpa didn't just leave me assets, he left me the knowledge to protect them. The fire had tried to burn me down, but I rose from the ashes, just like my diploma once had. And this time, I was building something even fire couldn't destroy. The fire slowed us down, but it didn't stop us. 6 months after that night, I stood on the same lot, now completely transformed. The senior living community was complete. Brick by brick, we had rebuilt what Amber tried to burn down. It was more than buildings. It was a symbol of resilience, of legacy, of love. I named it Harold's Haven. The grand opening was packed. Reporters, former employees of Grandpa's company, friends, neighbors, and future residents. Many of them had known my grandfather. Some had worked with him. Others had simply admired the man who built a business with his bare hands. I gave a short speech on stage, holding Grandpa's old hard hat in my hands. "This isn't just a place to live," I said. "It's a place that honors a man who believed in second chances, hard work, and people over profits. It's a place that says, no matter where you come from, you deserve to finish life with dignity." The crowd applauded. Some people wiped away tears. That moment was mine, and no one could take it from me. But I wasn't done yet. There was still one final piece of unfinished business, and I planned to end it on my terms. 2 weeks after the opening, I invited my parents and Amber to the house. They were surprised but curious. Greed makes people hopeful. When they arrived, I greeted them politely and led them into the living room, the same living room where my diploma had burned. "I assume you've heard about Harold's Haven," I began. My mom nodded slowly. "Yes, it's all over the news." Amber rolled her eyes. "Congrats on your charity project." I ignored her. "I asked you here today because I wanted to make something clear. Face to face." My father folded his arms. "Go ahead." I pulled out a sealed envelope and placed it on the table. Inside was a full financial report, profits, investor interest, waitlist numbers, and the estimated net value of the business as of last week. I didn't say a word. I let them read. Their faces changed. Shock, jealousy, realization. They now understood. I hadn't just inherited money. I had turned it into something worth more than all their years of scheming. Amber looked up first. "This isn't fair," she said bitterly. "Grandpa never." "He did," I interrupted. "He believed in me when no one else did, and now I believe in me too." I stood, "And I called you here to tell you this. I forgive you." They all stared at me. My mother blinked. "You forgive us?" "Yes," I said simply. "Not for you. For me." I smiled. Not with anger, not with smugness, with peace. Because I don't need revenge. I have something better. I turned and walked to the front door. I have a legacy. That was the last time I ever saw them. They never reached out again, and I didn't look back. I didn't need to, because from that day on, I lived on my terms, running my business, helping others, living in the house Grandpa left me. And every Sunday, I sit on the porch with a glass of lemonade, just like we used to, and I say quietly, "I did it, Grandpa.